So the answer is a website targeted at young people, and it provides them the basic knowledge, because my argument is that's all you really need to know to invest. But more importantly, the aptitude or headspace to successfully invest on their own. And instead of paying an advisor fee, they can make a donation to the charity of their choice.
So,
That's what it's about.
and so, what motivated you to start this organization?
When I was very young, my father was in the Air Force, and he passed away in the line of duty. And so my mom raised 4 boys on an Air Force pension. But part of the benefit was that each of the 4 boys had the opportunity to go to university with, and this is particularly sensitive to your audience, tuition paid, books paid, and we were actually paid to go to school. And so my education, I think, provided some opportunities for me in life. And this is sort of my attempt to try to give back to all the Canadian taxpayers who funded my education. I'm trying to do something kind in return. That's my attempt to give back.
That's awesome. That's really an inspiring story.
Well, I think there's 6 important things that young people should think about.
6.
6. You can go through each one. But by far, for young people, the most important one is time, which sounds kind of corny. But what I mean by that is young people have to understand what I call the paradox of time, which is the value of time in life is different than the value of time in investing. And by that I mean when young people have lots of time, so they don't tend to value each individual unit of time very highly because they have so much of it. But 1 or 2 weeks ago, they all sat down for Thanksgiving dinner, and their grandparents are saying, well, time is so important to me. And it makes sense because they have less of it. So that's all economics 101. It makes perfect sense. But in investing, time works exactly the opposite. The more time you have, the more each individual unit of time is worth. And if you understand the paradox of time, you won't fall into the youth trap, which is putting off investing today because you'll get to it tomorrow. So understanding time and its importance is the #1 thing for young people to appreciate.
That's important because in part of the Elly survey, one of the questions I asked, and there's a couple of options students have, and it's like, when do you think it's important to save? And a lot of people are clicking when they have one. So they're waiting until they have. So usually I give the advice, like even if you have a part-time job, it's about developing that habit of putting something aside now. Because it's not a habit that you develop just overnight. So it's practicing that, and your concept of the paradox of time, I think, fits well into that.
Well, your point actually dovetails perfectly into the #2 point,
yes,
which is very simply, and it's so boring, but you've got to spend less than you make. And
simple
so,
recipe.
Simple recipe. Yeah. Hard to do, but simple recipe. And that's to your point. Even if you start, I think it's just helpful to start mechanically. So even start with even $1 a week, because it forces you to set up the automatic transfer, and then you'll notice, hey, that doesn't hurt. Let's make it 5. Let's make it 10. Let's make it whatever.
Right.
But it happens automatically. So that's your point about you have to start somewhere. Even small amounts help. But #2 is spend less than you make.
Yep, we can't say it any easier than that. There's no way around it.
No way around it. Unfortunately, that's just how life is.
And it's not glamorous, people have this idea, you think about finance. First they think complex, then they think it's this big, it has to be this big dramatic thing that they have to do. But it's as simple as that.
It's the drip.
Yeah, it is the drip.
Yeah. Which brings us to #3, and there is a difference between saving and investing. To me, saving is you're saving money for a specific goal. Maybe it's for school, or maybe it's for a car after you graduate and you need to get to work, or maybe it's to get, buy the couch because you've just moved out, or whatever the case may be. That's saving. Investing is money that, from a young person's perspective, they're putting away for 10, 20, 30 years or more. And that's really where I focus, and I focus on kind of slice of the market. And if you're saving with that kind of investment horizon, this is not going to be widely accepted in terms of a suggestion, but my personal suggestion is that young people invest in all equities. That's #3, to invest in all equities. And the reason I say that is because the cost of playing it safe is extraordinarily high and not talked about. So what I mean by that is, if you have a balanced portfolio, you will easily reduce your portfolio return by 2%. easily. And that 2% over 40 years will cut your portfolio in half. So the cost of playing it safe is extraordinarily high. And it's not something young people should do, in my view.
Right.
But that'll bring us, I have to go straight into number 4.
Right.
Because I have to balance that, because I can see you're getting uncomfortable.
Is it obvious?
I can sense
Is it
that.
obvious? You're reading my eyebrows.
I can sense it. So number 4 now is, because you're in all equity, that's the suggestion, which you're uncomfortable with, you need to have the correct attitude or headspace to deal with it. And so what I mean by that is, we should, normally, the market will have a 20 to 50% drop every 4 years. That's over the last 120 years of experience.
Historical trends.
Yes. So my point is, anybody who's invested for 10, 20, 30 years or 40 years should, before they invest even $1, they should fully expect to experience market drops of 20 to 50%, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, maybe 10 times in their investment horizon. So when it actually does happen, because they fully expected it in their headspace, they will not panic. And so that's number 4. 3 and 4 go together. If you're going to be in equities, the only way to be all equities is to have the correct headspace.
So you have to have the right risk tolerance, because
Yes.
you might think theoretically, okay, I can do that. That makes sense. But when you put 50 grand in and you're seeing it disappear slowly, there's that emotional connection. That fear will definitely creep in. So how do you counter something like that?
Well, again, it's a headspace issue, and the way I do it personally, and the way I share some strategies and philosophies on the website, but you have to understand the difference between risk and volatility. So, for example, risk to my definition, and more of an accounting definition, a permanent loss of capital. Okay. So if you were to buy an exchange-traded fund ETF like the S&P 500, the largest 500 companies in the States, the chances of it going to zero are virtually zero. And as a result, you've done the 3 M's. You've managed to mitigate the majority of risk. Okay? So all that's left now is volatility. And what is volatility? It's nothing more than a large change in price in a short amount of time. That's all it is. Now, if that's your perspective, if you can actually teach yourself to think like that, volatility becomes your friend. Because now, instead of buying the ETF at $100 a share, or the pair of shoes at $100 a pair, you can now buy them 20% less because the market's just dropped. So you're paying $80 for the ETF and $80 for your pair of shoes. So if that's the frame of mind you have, and you're not going to touch that money for 10, 20, 30, 40 years or longer, you can actually take advantage of volatility. It can work in your favor. And so that's why the aptitude or headspace is very closely linked to having a lot of equities.
On equity, yeah.
Now, some people just can't stand all equities, and that's not a problem. You can insert as much fixed income as you feel comfortable, but just don't kid yourself. All you're really doing is reducing volatility, but that reduction of volatility is costing you money in the long run. And as I say, if you reduce your returns by 2%, you've just lost half your money. So it's your choice. I just want you to think about it and come down more comfortable.
At the end of the day, it comes down to the individual, what they can manage, not just financially, but like you said, the headspace as well.
And I think risk tolerance, that's the word you used.
Yeah.
I think that can be learned. You're not born with it. You can learn to manage it. And that's what the website's about. It's allowing you to learn some strategies and some philosophies that allow you to broaden your or extend your risk tolerance in your best interest.
So just as we want to teach people how to save and train them in that behavior, you're trying to train them to be more open to risk and taking risk, especially if they're young.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay. And so we reached number 5?
Yes, now that was 4, so number 5 is, and this is an obvious one, is investment costs.
Oh yes.
So it's
MERs.
Yes, management expense ratio. So,
Yes.
So I am against. I won't be well liked by most financial institutions, but I am against Series A mutual funds sold by banks, life insurance companies, and mutual fund companies. And the reason is obvious and it's simple. The average MER, management expense ratio, is 2.3% for all equities. And you can get an ETF portfolio at 20 basis points or 10 times cheaper. And again, 2% doesn't sound like a big number, but please remember, over that 40-year investment horizon that your young audience has, that will cost them half of their portfolio. So it's itsy teeny little number has a huge impact over time. So cost is number 5.
Okay.
And then the last one is, people like to talk about it first, but these are in order from my perspective.
Okay.
The last one's diversification.
Okay.
Easy to do, cheap to do, and all I'm talking about there is being globally diversified, but more importantly, economic sector diversification, which is easy to achieve with ETFs. And the reason for that is when the markets fall in this globalized, interconnected world, they all tend to fall together from a geographic perspective. But the economic sectors do not behave the same. And so there is safety in different economic sectors compared to just saying, I'm globally diversified. So you need both types of diversification. Easy to achieve in most ETFs. And that's number 6. So time is the most important. Spend less than you make. Boring, but you got to do it. When you decide to invest, if you can, be all equities.
Okay.
And be prepared for the eventual downturn. That's number 4. You need the head space or aptitude to be successful. Number 5 is, please don't use Series A mutual funds. Use large capitalization ETFs that have been trading for at least 5 years. They're the biggest, safest, most liquid. And lastly, you can diversify both geographically and by economic sector with those ETFs. And it's really that simple. It does not need to be overly complex.
Well, thank you so much, David.